Food scales really help you to gauge and monitor the amount of food that you have, just because eyeballing it isn't the most precise. Hey guys, welcome to another video. I am so happy that you clicked on here. You must be looking for ways that you can track your calories. This is something that I've done before, but it's been a while. It's something that really helps me to be more aware of the types of foods that I'm eating, how they are tracking as far as calories, macros, and just overall nutrients. I would say that it's very difficult to know what you're tracking towards, or even to try to do any type of intuitive eating if you're not really aware of the nutrients that are inside of foods. To be honest, I do like an off and on type of thing when it comes to tracking my calories, but when I do, I notice that I'm much more aware. So what I like to do is track my calories for a certain period of time and then stop tracking them, just so that I can get more into intuitive eating. And so that's what my plan is right now. The reason that I didn't start with tracking calories when I was first starting to reset with my diet is that I was really looking to start very slowly. And so my main focus during my first month was to really just get back on track, getting in the habit of eating the right foods, meal prepping, and all of that. Now that I pretty much have that under control and kind of have a routine that works for me, now I can move on to this step of tracking my calories. Eventually, I probably will track my macros too, but right now the main focus is on my calories. So the easiest app that I've ever used for tracking my calories is MyFitnessPal. I've used other apps probably for like a couple months or so, or even honestly a couple weeks, and I didn't like them. I found that they were really hard to use. They didn't have like the camera scanning feature that I really like. Overall, it was just not something that I stuck to with those apps. However, I find that I just love MyFitnessPal. It's just so easy to use. I've probably been using it for like 10 years now. It was so simple when I first started, and if you aren't familiar with MyFitnessPal, it's a calorie tracking app. The thing about it is that it's made so many improvements over the years, is that it's not a simple calorie tracking app like when I first started with it like 10 years ago. Now it has so many enhancements that I absolutely love. There's both a free version and a paid version, or a premium version. The free version really has a lot of information, mostly focusing on calories, but also you can get plans, you can get different articles that tell you more about nutrition or exercise and really get you motivated. You also get to read the stories of different users of the app and how they used it to lose massive amounts of weight, or how they used it to just change their overall lifestyle. And so that's something that I think is just so great to hear, because I know that for me, it definitely impacted me in a positive way. And I know other people that have used the app too. I just think that it's great that they share that information with everyone to just keep us inspired, keep us motivated, and just really providing some guidance when you don't have the ability to have a personal trainer or your own nutritionist. Another great thing about the app is that you actually can connect with friends. So if you have the person's like contact information, you can actually see the types of foods that they're eating if they allow you for privacy, but you can also just connect with them. You can send them messages so you can motivate them. It's just a great way to connect with people through the app and motivate them, especially if you're feeling like you're in a rut. No, this is not a sponsored video. However, if MyFitnessPal would ever want to reach out to me, I would definitely receive that. Some tips that I have for using the app that I found very useful is: one, track your calories throughout the day instead of tracking them just at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you're tired, you do not remember even what you had for lunch, you don't remember whether or not you probably even brushed your teeth. There's no reason that you need to wait at the end of the day in order to track your calories. Instead, track your calories after each meal or after each snack. Anything that you have, even your drinks, count. So I would say that that's something that's really helpful, is tracking throughout the day. Another thing that could be really helpful for you is to enter your calories before you actually eat them. So if you're wanting to just kind of gauge what your meals are going to look like throughout the day and making sure that you're hitting any sort of macros or calories, it's really helpful to enter in all of the food that you're gonna have for the day. And that's where meal planning and meal prepping really come in handy, is that if you already know what you're gonna have, even if you're gonna like go to Starbucks every single day, you can enter in those calories and know how that's gonna impact you throughout the day, throughout the week. Instead of you eating those calories or drinking those calories and then being like, oh dang,
I'm over my calorie intake for the day.
That's something that can definitely throw you off and can kind of be discouraging too. By entering your calories beforehand, you can make the right decisions to figure out if you're going to have that type of food or if you're going to decide to choose something else. So my next tip is for you to use a food scale, even though you're still using the measurements of MyFitnessPal. A food scale will really help you to be exact of your measurements of each food. Food scales are really easy to get. If you don't have one, I will leave a link to a digital scale that I really like. Scales are really lightweight. You don't have to spend a lot of money on them, and you don't need one that's really complex either. Food scales really help you to gauge and monitor the amount of food that you have, just because eyeballing it isn't the most precise. So if you're looking for those precise measurements, that's where the food scale really comes in handy. I will say though, if you're not into food scales, if that's not something that you can budget for, then I would say to use your hands as measurements. Hands can be really helpful to figure out the size and portion that you can have, whether it's protein, carbs, fats. Your hands can be a really easy way for you to figure out what that's supposed to be. So my last tip is to be sure to enter in your water intake. You can do this for every single day. There have been some recommendations that say that 8 glasses of 8 ounces a day of water are what you need. However, I just do not think that that's enough. There's actually different amounts of water that you need depending on if you're male or female. So males tend to need about 15.5 cups of water per day. However, women only need about 11.5 cups of water per day. That definitely is impacted with the amount of exercise that you have per day and also your climate. When you are in a humid climate, like I'm on the East Coast, it's very, very humid here during the summer. So I drink a lot of water just so I can stay hydrated, because when you perspire through sweat, you are releasing a lot of your bodily fluid. That's great when you're exercising, but if you're not exercising, it's just evaporating to the air, and it's just best for you to replenish that with water as much as you can. So MyFitnessPal is available on both the App Store and Google Play, but it's also available as a website. The website version is okay, but I find that it's easier to navigate in the app, especially because there's certain features that you can only use on the app that make it easier to enter in your foods. So when you first go into the app, you'll see the amount of calories that you have remaining for the day, as well as what your goal is. When you have the premium version, you are able to access the macros, heart healthy, as well as low carb versions. And I don't have that version. I only have the free version, and I love that. So I just use the free version, and that gives me everything that I need, at least as of right now. I won't say that I'll never get premium, but as of right now, it just kind of helps me to hit my goals. So after navigating on the main page, the first thing I like to do is set my goals. So once you click on the more, and I'm starting strictly from scratch here. So I've entered in and created my account, but now I want to navigate through my profile. I can see my goals, nutrition, any recipes or foods that I specifically create in the app, which I love that you can do that too. That makes them so much easier to add. And looking at what any reminders that I have to log my food, any steps that I have to. If I wanted to have any of that, I could also enter that, as well as looking at any friends. So because I have specific goals that I'm trying to reach, I like to look into my goals. Now right now I have my current weight, as well as what my goal weight is, my weekly goal of how many pounds that I want to lose, and also my activity. This helped to determine the amount of calories that I should be having. Now when it first gave me my recommendation for calories, it suggested that I should have about 2,000 calories per day, but that just seemed a little bit high for me right now, so I adjusted it to 1,600. If you don't want the default, you can customize, and so that's where I changed my calories. You can also adjust your macros. And so when clicking on that, you can navigate to different carb amounts, different fat amounts, different protein amounts. So as of right now, I have about 45% of my calories are carbs, 25% of protein, and 30% in fats. And I can also look and see what those amounts of grams are as well. I also like to take a look at any additional nutrients that I have. Those additional nutrients really help me to be aware of like any saturated fats, as well as like potassium, those micronutrients that I need. Also thinking about my cholesterol levels. So that's what helps me to navigate through that, and I can monitor that throughout the day. I also mentioned how you can see like different activities and different activities of others, to see any articles. That's where your news feed really comes in. So it defaults to like their MyFitnessPal blog. Then you can see any workouts, any articles about different users of them, how they've lost weight. So that's really interesting to see like different articles or videos about how people have used the app and became really successful with whatever their goals were. Now when I navigate to my diary, I can see the amount of calories that I have as my goal, minus the food that I've eaten, plus my exercise, and then anything remaining. Now, I will say that the exercise calories that it's adding, I don't like to eat those calories. I think that that kind of defeats the purpose of the goal. So instead, I only account for calories that I have from food. So when first looking at my breakfast, I had a smoothie this morning, and then as a snack, I had 2 boiled eggs before going to my workout. With my smoothie, I entered in the different ingredients that I had for the smoothie and their amounts. I've entered these things in before, so I already had these in my history, so they were really easy to grab. But if I'm trying to navigate the amount of like spinach that I have, I can measure those out. And I would say about a handful of spinach is 1 cup. And so you can just kind of navigate from there, but also it's spinach, so you don't really worry too much about the calories there. But what I was really trying to make sure that I didn't have too much of is too much fruit, more so because of the different sugars, and I wanted to kind of monitor that throughout the day. So with that, I also wasn't sure about the amount of calories that was in my coconut water. Keeping that in mind, I was able to enter in all that information. And something I'll show you is that if you're adding certain foods, it's really interesting that you can click on the food and you can enter in like the number of servings that you had, the meal that it was attributed to, just so to keep you organized. And you can also see not only the calories, but also the macros related to each and every food. Once you've confirmed it, you can see how it relates to the rest of your meal. You can also easily delete if you need to. When I want to add a food, I will enter in the name. And because this was already a history, I can just easily just click on the little plus sign and that will add it. I can confirm that the amount that I want to have, and then I will click the little check mark and it will say that my food's been logged. It's really as simple as that. When I navigate back to my breakfast, then I can see all of that right there. I've also entered in my lunch for the day. I have not had dinner yet. That will be in about an hour or so, but I will go ahead and log that. And then once I'm done, you can scroll down. Then you can click on Complete Diary. Something that I really love about this app is that if I want to see how my nutrients are going throughout the day, you can click on the nutrition button right beneath Complete Diary. When clicking on this, I can see the percentages of both my calories and my macros. And then if I want to dive deeper into the grams, I can see that by clicking on the Nutrients tab. I love that it color codes the macros, so I always know what my protein, carbs, and fats are going to be related to the micronutrients, where those are typically just in a grayish black. So as I'm looking through, I can see that my protein is definitely lacking here, and that my carbs are lacking as well. I will have a lot more carbs in my dinner because I'm gonna have the Mandarin chicken from Trader Joe's, which is absolutely delicious. So my protein intake will be increased from that too, but it still won't be enough. So I know that based on what I have so far, I'll need to get in some more nutrients just to make sure that I am hitting all of my goals and building muscle like I want. Something I like to also take a look at is if I've had any saturated fats or any trans fats for the day. Saturated fats, you can have like a certain amount and still be within like a healthier range, but trans fats just are not good at all. And so I like to keep that at 0 as much as I can. I will say there aren't as many foods that have trans fats just because they've been kind of like ostracized, but there are still foods that contain them. And so that's something that you should be really aware of. And that's why it has the goal of 0 for trans fats. So you just want to make sure that you stay in that. Now, if you do go over any, you will have a negative number. For me today, that was polyunsaturated fat. fats as well as monounsaturated fats, but I was perfectly fine with that just because it was for an avocado that I had. Also, if you want to look into the amount of micronutrients that I have, I just want to make sure that I'm always having enough vitamin A, vitamin C. Actually, according to this, I have way more than what I'm supposed to have, but I'm completely fine with that. I'd rather have more of those nutrients than not enough. I also like to click on the notes button. Now this gives you the option to enter in both food notes as well as exercise notes. This really gets you thinking more about the foods that you're having and how those are impacting you, whether you are having any foods that are upsetting your stomach. Maybe just mentally you are in a space where you just wanted to have more of certain foods, and then it's really helpful for you to just in the moment record how those foods are making you feel, why you have certain cravings, and tracking how you feel from that, rather than you binging and then just shaming yourself and not knowing what is impacting you overall. So then you can also see in the notes your exercise notes. And so those two, I would like to put in if I am trying to track how my muscles are feeling based on my workout split. I do like to keep my actual split of my workouts in a separate app, in the Notes app. But if I'm trying to track like muscle soreness, whether I felt like I needed more food for recovery or anything like that, I like to put that in my exercise note. Another cool feature of the app is that you can actually use a barcode scanner, and I really like this because it makes it even easier to enter in my foods, especially if I'm using any sauces, anything that's honestly processed. Those tend to have barcodes on them. I also love that it has a lot of restaurant foods. So if I've had the shrimp tempura from P.F. Chang's, which I absolutely love, I can enter that in as well without me having to do the guesswork. Or if I'm planning my meal ahead of time and I already know that I'm trying to go to P.F. Chang's, then I can enter that in beforehand to say, maybe I can skip it this week, or maybe I just need to balance it out with the rest of the foods that I'm having if that ends up being my cheat meal for the week. So there you have it. Those are the simple ways that I use to track my calories. I really enjoy using MyFitnessPal. If you are using any type of app, please let me know, like, have you had experience with MyFitnessPal or are you using something else? I would love to hear that in the comments. If you like this type of video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.